Hi, everyone. Good morning, afternoon-ish. My name is Serena Honda, and I lead the design and delivery practice here at 1904 Labs. Welcome to our session, How to Avoid Wasting Millions with AI. Before I hand it off to our lovely speakers here, I'd like to take a minute to introduce 1904 Labs to you. We help executives that are charged with transforming their organizations overcome challenges associated with building custom digital solutions. These challenges may be in technology alignment, or even selecting the right vendor to work with. All obstacles that you all probably see while you're trying to achieve results and value for the business. 1904 Labs is dedicated to human-focused innovation, thinking through the needs of all the humans involved, the stakeholders, the people helping to build support for the product, and the users. And now, let me introduce you to our speakers. Brandon Fischer has spent his career in the data science and analytics space, both as an executive and an expert data scientist, leading teams and building machine learning capabilities for enterprise brands. Currently, he serves as the Director of Data Engineering and Data Science here at 1904 Labs. And we have Kelly Hopson. She specializes in bringing people and technology together across enterprise and federal clients as an expert in software engineering and consulting. Her current role as the Director of Modern Software Engineering and the leader of our federal practice, she and her team develop and implement cloud-native software solutions, web and mobile applications, and modern DevOps solutions that deliver business results.
All right, so today we want to talk about if your business is going to move towards AI or wants to start implementing AI. Hey, look at that.
Wow, so exciting.
So we've helped a number of large enterprise clients in St. Louis add machine learning, deep learning, and artificial intelligence to their tech stack and to their operational flow. And after having done this for many years, I spent over a decade of my career in the marketing and advertising space. And so I helped a lot of large brands add all kinds of innovative ad tech and machine learning specific to ad targeting and customer targeting. And so I've seen a lot of mistakes and I've seen a lot of common behaviors. And so what we pulled together today was kind of 4 of those issues we've seen clients go through. And the reason why it's very topical and relevant is just quick show of hands. How many people here in the room have played around with ChatGPT or any of the GPT models? Yeah. And keep your hands up if you were, and just keep them there. Keep your hands up if you were thoroughly impressed or if it blew you away or, right? It's
Absolutely.
remarkably human, right? A little so. Yeah. All right, so AI is so hot right now. And this is kind of what I was getting into. AI's gotten a lot better. It's convincingly close to human, and it's getting better and better with each new release, which is coming much more frequently. And so we are hearing from a lot of our clients and a lot of our partners this interest in adding AI to your tech stack. And like I said, we've learned a few things. We've seen a few common behaviors and thought we'd share those with you and share some solutions to those pitfalls. Driving this conversation is something my father has always said to me, is there's a right way and a wrong way to do things, and we want to do things the right way. So let's help save you from some of these pitfalls. So if you're using AI to enhance your business, here's 4 things you have to do to save yourself from wasting millions of dollars.
So, as Fish said, there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. We've been doing this for a while, and so we've learned some lessons, right? Going through it, we've learned some things we think that are really vitally important not to do. So we want to try to help you as you go on your AI journey, or hire somebody like 1904 to help you along your AI journey as well. So the first mistake we see is pushing for AI just because it's trendy. I think there's a lot of times when we see a new technology coming out, right, and everybody wants to jump on board and get value very quickly from whatever this new technology is. And while that is definitely something that we think you can do and it will add value very quickly, we often have conversations that go a little bit like this. So business executive says to their IT leader, hey, I want to add AI to our tech stack. And the IT leader says, yeah, absolutely. I'm totally in on that. But what did you have in mind? And the business executive says, well, I just want to make sure that we're staying ahead of the market, that we're being innovative. Like, I don't really care how we implement it, but we need it. And we need it like yesterday. Could you do that? Like, implement it, this previous week.
Right.
And
there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you definitely want to be more specific about why you're doing it, but wanting to be cutting edge and wanting to be ahead of the market and ahead of the competition, that is a noble goal. There's nothing wrong with that being a driving factor.
Absolutely. But it can also mean that you are potentially wasting some money. So when you look to get into AI, I think it's really vitally important to start by developing a very clear AI strategy. So before you start jumping in to how do we implement it, where do we go, think through the problem sets that you have, right? There are use cases and specific business objectives that are great for AI. So identifying the right problem to solve is first and foremost, right? You might look across the landscape and think, there's like several different models you could use. So something like ChatGPT isn't going to be good for fraud detection. That is going to be a different model. So if it's identifying the right problem to solve to use the right kind of technology, and AI isn't a magic bullet. It's not going to, as soon as you say, hey, I want to implement AI on the system, it's not going to just magically work. There are a lot of things that you have to do and implement in order for that to start adding real business value.
Yeah. I mean, imagine being an executive or being in IT, and an executive comes to you and says, I want to add ChatGPT to our operational workflow. And the IT executive says, yeah, but we're a manufacturing company. What good is a text generation algorithm going to do for us, right? Well, that's where the interest is ahead of the business need and the problem. And so you're never going to change. ChatGPT is great. GPT-4 is great. But it's never going to suddenly help you optimize your manufacturing and supply chain problems. It will only ever generate text. So make sure that you're choosing a problem that AI can help you solve.
Absolutely. And then remember that humans will be the ones interacting with the AI. We have implemented some systems where AI, like I said, the model is going through fraud detection for one of our clients. And that one doesn't have a front-end interface with it, but it is going to be touched by the humans on the other end of it. And remembering that humans are going to be the ones interacting, the reason that this is vitally important as well is because if you implement an AI system that nobody wants or needs or understands how to use, they'll just go around it. It really won't be integrated into your workflow, and it will have just been a waste of time and energy.
Yeah.
If you don't make something that is actually valuable to the people that are using it on the end. So it's vitally important to do discovery work in the beginning to understand the problem set and to be able to identify, okay, this is actually a use case that we need and people want to use it. And the third thing is this idea of build versus buy versus tune. And when you're thinking about AI strategy, you can implement a system from scratch, right? Greenfield technology, build it up. That's going to take a lot of time and energy and money. And so you need to make sure that you've identified a clear value proposition for this to use and know that going into it, you have to be able to offset the cost of building from scratch. You could also buy a system, and this is great because it's already set for you. You already can just easily implement it.
You can license software, you can license AI, you can go out and connect to the GPT APIs, and you can use, great, fine. Does it meet your needs? Does it do exactly what you want it to do? And how much can you customize it? And that's where this third option of tuning can be really beneficial and really valuable. Anybody familiar with this concept of tuning AI systems? Okay, so good example is something that we played around with because we were going to write a blog post about it. We took GPT-3 and we tuned it against the entire corpus of Dr. Seuss. And we asked it
the literary master.
Right. We asked it to read every Dr. Seuss book. And then we said, now, generate a new story. What was incredible is that by reading all of the books, it had captured that it needed to write in short sentences. It had captured the rhyme pattern. It had captured the idea of writing made-up, complex, funny-sounding words. Now, it didn't write a cohesive story with a great narrative that taught lessons to children, but it got a lot of things right. And so this idea of tuning can be a great middle ground where you want to customize a model, You need to feed it some of your data or some of your customer data so that it can learn from that, and then it'll generate the right type of outputs without you having to start from scratch and go through the act of collecting a whole bunch of data and curating that data and then building models and the infrastructure to deploy those models.
Yeah, and the buy option is great as well, but there is the downfall that there's a black box around it. So you don't understand the model that it was trained on. You might not be able to, like Fish alluded to, there's not a lot of customization potentially that you can do with it. You can do a little bit, but you're not going to fundamentally change the output of that model. So say it's a text-based model, you're not all of a sudden going to change it, even if you tune it to be outputting images for your business, right? That's not something that it can fundamentally change. So also knowing the right type of tool that you want to buy is incredibly important in the beginning. And thinking through all of this, again, taking a step back, right? Sometimes you have to slow down to go faster and think it through your AI strategy and how are you going to implement this in order to make sure that you're not just, throwing it out there and wasting a bunch of time and energy, money.
And the AI as a service marketplace is very young. And so when you think about going to well-established tech companies and saying, we really want to use your tool, but we wish it could do this thing, they're suddenly all too happy to say, in our next release, we're about to solve that problem for you, right? Well, these AI companies, they're young and they're probably not nimble enough to say, yeah, we're going to jump on your problem just to win this contract. And so realize that you won't have as much control over these as-a-service solutions if you decide to buy.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the next challenge, which is underestimating how much time and how much effort goes into this idea of turning on AI. If you're on the business side of the house, this might be the simple architecture that you view as it relates to your data. Is you say, look, I've got a business. My business is doing well. We generate a bunch of data that lands in our data store. It's a data lake. It's a data warehouse, whatever it is. I can query that and I can do my analytics. So this is kind of my tech architecture as far as I'm concerned. And so all I really want to do is I just want you to add another bubble on here. It's really easy, guys. I don't know what the problem, I don't know why you said 2 years and so many millions of dollars. This is not reality, right? For all technologists in the room, this is even a simplification of what your architecture probably looks like. Is you have your business, which is generating data, but you also have a bunch of external sources. You probably have some industry sources as well that you pull in. All of that goes through some ingestion and ETL process where it lands in a data store, which could be a data lake, data warehouse, could be both. When you want to feed that data back into the business to help with business decisions, it probably goes through some kind of an operational data hub or some operational databases, right? Then there's the analytics side of it. And so if you want to turn on machine learning and AI, you have to turn on all these other components to help you get there. A lot of this might already exist for your business today, but if any of it doesn't, and you want to get to artificial intelligence, then you've got to look at all of these components. And so the solution to underestimating this time and effort is to invest in that platform now. And you want to invest in that platform for a number of reasons, but first of all, whatever AI you build is going to require a ton of resources to work. At any given moment right now, if you go to ChatGPT, you are one of thousands, if not 10,000s of people who are asking this AI model to generate text for you. And so that is distributed processing across a number of virtual machines and servers. And orchestrating all of that is very important to users even being able to touch your tool, right? And so know that you have to put a lot of money into building this. And forget the infrastructure that goes into it. Let's just talk about the data. If you want to build AI, you need all of the data connected to the problem you want to solve. And I noticed that you're taking notes over here. Is it Elijah? I'm concerned that what you heard me say was you need a lot of data. What I said was you need all of the data connected to the problem you're trying to solve. A-L. Are you going to write it down? You're not going to write it down? It's fine. I think I made my point. It takes a ton. I've had clients where we make this point to them and they say, yeah, and every time I open up my Excel workbook, it freezes. I have so much data. That's not enough. And they say, well, yeah, but we're migrating to Power BI and we've got a SQL warehouse where everything's organized in column structured databases. It's probably not enough. If you have any concept of exactly how much data you have, it's probably not enough. AI requires all of the data. And so realize that you're going to go out and you are going to acquire data, you're going to have to curate that data. There is a whole workflow involved in getting data ready to where you can start building machine learning models and deep learning models and stitch that together into something that we would call AI. And when it's all said and done and you've got a model, investing in that infrastructure matters because that infrastructure will outlive whatever you build. Version 1 will be sunset so that version 2 can take over. The infrastructure will stay the same, but you're going to replace your model with something better. And then in 12 to 6 months, you're going to do it again. And then you're going to do it again. And at some point, you're going to go, ooh, somebody made a tweak to this reinforcement learning methodology, and so we really want to try that. And you're going to take a totally new approach to building a model to solve this problem. And so your platform's going to outlive that AI, but making sure you have everything in place to where you can just deploy a new model into your ML pipeline puts you in the right position.
But Fish, what about data? I wasn't clear about that.
No.
No. I think I lost you.
All the data.
All the data?
All the data.
All the data. Okay.
Yeah.
Lots of data.
And you probably didn't find it all, so you should look again.
Oh, okay.
All right. The next mistake is assuming that AI operates like, I don't know if anybody didn't have cable as a kid like me, but there on the weekends you ended up with a bunch of infomercials. And so I can't tell you how many times I watched the Ronco Craftmatic rotisserie chicken cooker commercial where you can set it and forget it and he gets the whole crowd to say it. That's not how AI works. You can't set it and forget it. AI requires constant monitoring, and so the assumption is often that, look, it's self-learning. It's basically human. I read everything that it wrote. It's better than me. Okay, great. You can't just let it go, right? There's ethical concerns to that. There's all kinds of problems that can arise if you're not monitoring and watching. So when you look at this infrastructure, I'm going to highlight these kind of two pathways that become really important as you move towards deploying AI and then using it in your business. Is you need to be connecting what you've got in production back to your analytics so that you can be monitoring it and making sure that it's still working. And then you also need to be monitoring it in process at that operational hub before decisions are being made to make sure that you're not wearing out, your model's not drifting, and you're still getting the same level of performance that you would want. So the solution here is to just consistently monitor and optimize your AI system. That's going to mean dashboards and reporting specifically for your AI, but I think more important, it's deciding what success means and being able to measure and track against that success and doing that early. So it's choosing a KPI that says, in order for this to be better than the current process, it needs to perform at this level. Right? Now, you may release it before it performs at that level, knowing that it's going to continue to learn and it'll continue to improve, right? And you might release it in a marginal way. So initially, only 10% of traffic will be directed to this new process. And so you can allow it to gain real-time data and to learn and to grow and to improve its performance. And then once it's ready, then you expand that. You go from 10 to 25, and then you go from 25 to 50 or 60, and then finally you release it to everybody. But it's understanding those metrics and that performance, monitoring it, and it's also deciding what to do if it never is good enough. And you should think about that ahead of time, because there is no guarantee that when you set out on this process, which is going to take a long time, that you're going to get to the answer and the performance that you necessarily want. In the end, you may say, it's cool, and we should definitely talk about it and promote the work that we did, but in reality, we'll need to stick to a redundant process where this happens and also humans check over it before decisions are made. And so just monitor and be prepared for changing directions and trying something else.
Yeah, and just like in software, it's not a set and forget it, right? You have to be able to maintain it. You have to look at the performance of the system over time. You need to be able to monitor on very specific and measurable goals, right? That's very important. And that's, again, should be part of your strategy on the upfront to define what those goals are and then set clear metrics around them. The other thing is drift. I don't know if you...
Oh, yeah. I mean, I mentioned it briefly, yeah. But so with these, there's an ethical problem that happens with these models, where based on the training set that you give it, there are possibly inherent bias in that data, right? I'm sure everybody has read the articles that say so-and-so AI is racist or bigot or, it's not, but it was trained against a data set that allowed those biases into its results, right? And so there is this problem of drift where these models will wear down over time. And using different reinforcement learning techniques and methodologies, they may latch onto and they may reinforce specific types of problems and specific types of answers. And they will therefore ignore other problems that perhaps the model's not good at solving or responding to yet. But it ignores those because it's not providing the right answer. And so it'll double down on the stuff it is good at and it'll reinforce in those areas. And so that's another thing you've got to monitor is you can be happy with the responses that it's providing, but then you need to make sure that it has the ability to respond to the whole spectrum of your problem and your problem set.
And that takes us to mistake number 4, which is thinking that all you need is data science.
That is all you need.
No.
We can do it all.
As amazing as you are,
I do love to hear that.
as a data scientist, you cannot actually do everything that you need through data scientists. So data scientists are really, really good at data collection and data analysis. They're fantastically great at model development and testing against those models. They're great at communicating the results of that. But that's not actually all you need, right? When we looked at that diagram of the system, of the AI system, right? There were lots and lots of bubbles on there, even in the simplified version. And so I think you need to start to ask some questions about who is going to manage and maintain the data resources that you have? Who is going to deploy the model and manage all the version control? Who supports and maintains the model in production? Who's going to design and build the front-end UI, right? No offense, I do not want you building a front end.
I've never built a front-end UI. So, well, dashboards. I've built dashboards, lots of dashboards.
Well, okay. And then who manages and controls the access, right? To the data, to your output, everything. That's all going to need to be managed. And then tracking, documenting, resolving errors, right? You're going to have observability on your systems. You're going to have to be able to track and document everything that's done. You might need to roll this back at any moment. So the solution to thinking that all you need is data science is to identify and invest in the right talent. So that's usually a team of people. So, we have talked to clients. I can think of a specific example where they said, hey, we want to add some machine learning and some AI to our system, right? We think it can help us with optimizing what we want to do. And we said, okay, great. And they said, we just need a couple data scientists, right? Bolt those on there. And we were like, okay, well, let's see. What's the structure of your data? How are your pipelines? What's your cloud infrastructure look like? Where are all the systems? Do you have an ingestion pipeline, right? So we started asking some questions, and quickly we realized it wasn't just data scientists that we needed, right? It was a whole team of people from data engineers, DevOps engineers, machine learning ops, ML ops and AI ops engineers, and digital experience designers and full stack developers. So all of these people have a part to play, right? Digital experience designers may be helping you with your strategy up front and your research to understand your problem set and really help define and clearly define those goals and metrics that you want to be able to hit. Full stack developers might need some API. You're going to need some cloud work. DevOps is going to help you with infrastructure. And then I thought I heard something about data. So I think you might need some data engineers to help you if you don't have that already in the shape that it needs to be in, right? Because it's not just the raw data either. It has to be curated. It has to be in a form that it can actually be ingested and actually add value to the problem set.
So that client example that you mentioned, this was a client that came to us and said, we want to turn on machine learning. We said, great. At the same time, they had just released a network of thousands, if not tens of thousands of IoT devices that were now in field. And so we said, well, first thing we're going to do is we're going to build you a streaming data architecture so that we can utilize all of this high-speed, high-volume data coming from these IoT devices.
Real-time, amazing data.
Yeah. And that is, again, we wanted all the data. So we had to build a whole new cloud architecture for them so that they could take that data and then utilize that data to build their models and to implement their AI solution. And so, and a data scientist is not going to do all of that for you. We had to bring in data engineers and we had to bring in DevOps engineers to build that infrastructure and build the data pipelines.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a village. Okay, and then the other thing is that AI isn't a one-time cost. So say you hire a consulting firm to come in, right? And just like we were talking about, turn on an AI system, help you with your data pipelines, start to get that ingestion, get everything up and running. Great. That's great, right? But then maybe you want to take it in-house. So you look around and you say, okay, I have a great team of people right now. I can use them. I can point them at this problem. But you need to make sure that they have the right skill sets for that, right? DBAs are not going to be good at helping fix a pipeline, right? If it's a data pipeline, if it's broken. And so if you either don't have the people that you can train, you can also invest, right, in other people or hire outside, of course, to also maintain the systems as well.
Yeah. It's just, once the model is built, the work is only beginning. And so you have to continue to invest in what you've built because you're going to iterate on it. You're going to add more models to it. You're going to increase the infrastructure, so you're going to need to make that more robust and add to it. And then once you deploy, there's all new resources that you have to spin up in production because like we talked about, you're going to have to distribute the processing and you're going to have all kinds of cloud resources available to you. And so building AI it's just not, you write the check and you're done. You're going to keep paying for it like kids. You're going to keep paying for that for as long as you have to.
But I do think that we've kind of doom and gloomed a little bit, but there is definitely value to be gained from implementing AI in your systems. And we have seen this across a number of clients where it's been successfully done.
So I don't want to scare anyone in this room away from pursuing AI, machine learning, deep learning. In part because it's my job to try and sell that work and help you do it. So I don't want to scare you off. But we are at a time where AI is the next tech revolution that we're going to face, right? There was a time when the automobile was replacing the horse and buggy, and everybody thought, what are we going to do with all our horses? And horses are fine, right? It's just a new world. It's a new paradigm. And so I thought I'd kind of show you the development of OpenAI. So OpenAI is the company that produces ChatGPT, GPT-4,
DALL-E.
Codex, DALL-E, yep. So they've got a number of different models that they've built. They got started at the very end of 2015. A bunch of very wealthy people came together and they said, we want to start an organization that progresses the development of artificial intelligence and ensures that whatever is built in the AI space is open and available to everyone so that it's not controlled by a few wealthy, powerful people, but it's open and available to everybody. And then they took 2.5 years to release their first GPT model. So like I said, building AI and getting to the point where AI works, it takes a lot of time. And during that 2.5 years, they were curating data sets. They were teaching their bot to read the entire text of the internet in multiple languages, right? But then things started to accelerate. So we released the first model, and then within a year, we drop another one. And then it takes a little bit longer to get to GPT-3. GPT-3 from GPT-2 was a substantial leap. Yeah. So that they spent a little bit more time and added a lot more data to that model. But then you can see how very quickly everything accelerates. And last year in November, ChatGPT came out, and that's when everybody, the general audience got clued into these models, right? Everybody played with it. We're all very excited. I wrote probably 3 different blog posts, and while we were editing those, they released another model in March, and I had to go back and rewrite those models as blog posts because it's no longer the newest and greatest. And this is going to continue to happen probably up until 2029 when the machines take over. But
that's a joke.
Yeah, that was a joke. We have a little bit of a window before we are rendered obsolete. And so in that time, if you'd like, come stop by our booth and talk to us. I'd be happy to tell you more client stories, give you a little bit deeper examples of some of this work that we've done and how we helped clients think through this and get around it. Any of these mistakes, if you don't see them and you don't correct them, you'll end up spending a lot of money on something that you can't operationalize or you haven't fully thought through or it doesn't solve your problem.
Or it's not being used.
Or it's not being utilized because it didn't consider end users. But you can steer and make corrections in the process, and you can still drive to value even if you didn't set out and say, okay, I'm going to spend 6 months developing an AI strategy. Like you can do that as you go along in a truly agile way. All right. Did you like any of the images that we put? Most of the images in this presentation were generated by
DALL-E.
OpenAI's DALL-E. Yeah.
So this was AI generated images. So if they look a little weird, you can kind of excuse it a little bit. AI does really good with, like dashboards and manipulating images, but not so good with words and text and
Yeah.
human faces especially. It has a lot of trouble with at this point.
I love this DIPS. And the reason why I picked this, because when you give DALL-E a prompt, it produces 4 images that you can choose from. I loved this one because this is the only time you can tell it's trying to write words, but they're not real letters, but dips. It got dips. I don't know why it called a tech team of 5 the dips, because that was the prompt that I gave it. But I do love that.
That's going to be our next team name, Dips.
Well, yeah. I do also love the robot graveyard that man, it nailed that, didn't it? Okay. Do we have time for Q&A?
Yes. All right, so we don't have a free mic to run around, so you can either speak really loudly or I can run up to you and get your question and come ask it up here, whatever you prefer. Does anybody have any questions?
Question.
Yes, there was an open letter called Pause Giant AI Experiments that was published recently. Do you have any comments on that open letter?
I'll repeat the question just so everybody can hear. There was a recent letter released called Pause Giant AI Experiments. Is that right? And that was released to, I assume, stop experimenting with AI. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'll be honest, I haven't read the letter. I'm not up to date on that headline. I don't believe we need to pause all development in the AI space. I do understand the ethical concerns, and that means something that we raised in this conversation. But that's why monitoring and releasing in a safe manner different AI solutions is very, very important. But no, you don't want to get so excited about your results that you go to market immediately, because you're ignoring a lot that can go wrong. And it's part of that AI strategy. It's part of monitoring and having backup plans for when to roll back and when to pull back different AI systems because they've begun to drift or they're presenting bias issues. That's an important part of releasing any kind of machine learning, deep learning AI system.
Any other questions?
Man, led with a fastball. Okay.
All right, let's go here.
Can you give an example of like a small AI project that some companies want to start with, just as a baseline for people when they're thinking about a strategy?
All right, I'll repeat it. Could you give an example of a small AI project that people want to start with to kind of see early results?
Yeah. Given the success of large language models, what we have seen a lot of clients come talk to us about is customer support channels. So handling FAQs and is there a way that we can take existing knowledge that's on our website and target a large language model at that knowledge base so that we can interact in a conversational way with customers as they come to us, but it's generated chat, but it's backed by real information, right? So if you go to GPT and you ask it to write you an essay, it'll write you an essay. But it will almost certainly cite not real resources and not real people in quotes, and that's great, and it might fool your high school English teacher, but under peer review, it will falter. So clients are coming to us and saying, we want to go a step beyond that. We don't want just ChatGPT. We want it to reference real information from our knowledge set. And that's a pretty, I'm not going to say easy, but that's a nice first pass at using it to interact with clients.
And then I think there was a question over here. Yes.
Is ChatGPT the only machine learning AI your company uses, or is there another model that you might suggest?
So the question was, is ChatGPT the only machine learning model your company uses, or are there others?
No, there are several others. Google had BERT, which is now Bard. There are other, and these are just the large language models. And so Amazon has them as well, but Amazon has several large language models. They've been using types of AI and large language models to power Alexa for years now, right? And they have extensions of those different language models that are doing natural language generation in the way these other large language models. But there's other models out there that do image generation, like we talked about for our images. Right now, these quote AI systems, they're very focused in what they produce. Got 5 minutes left. So when you go out to solve your problem, you may say AI, and in reality, it's more pure machine learning or pure forecasting. But what makes it closer to AI is you build the model and then you set up a framework and infrastructure so that in a real-time basis, data is fed in, it's computed and processed, and a decision can be made and actioned on. And so that's what a lot of clients would consider a closed AI system for them. And so, yeah, there's lots of different approaches, lots of different models.
Yes,
Did that
right here.
answer?
It's a serious question.
Okay.
Someone entering law school today and studying law for 4 years, 6 years, or whatever, there's a pretty widespread feeling that, among other things, that AI may surpass them. What's the future for all the people who start now to learn something that's going to be overwhelmed by AI?
Yeah.
So the question was for somebody entering law school, there's kind of a general feeling that AI is kind of coming for those. What does that look like for somebody who's just entering a field like that now?
Yeah, and I assume this is based on, there's been several reports that GPT was able to pass the bar in several states, and
Yeah.
you can go.
Well, I mean,
And their hourly rate is less.
that's definitely true. There, as it stands right now, there isn't really a way for any of the AI models to completely take over human jobs. That's just the truth of it. It's not quite there yet. Could it be there in the future? Potentially. I don't.
It will.
But, like we've seen before, I mean, there's always some fluidity in the market, right? When something comes in, it replaces something else. And that's what tends to happen. I mean, change is going to happen over time. I think if we embrace what we can to make our lives easier, our jobs easier, make, really mundane tasks able to be done by an AI, that's great, right? But I don't think becoming wholly reliant on any sort of AI system or any sort of software system is really what you want in the long term.
And look, if you're a lawyer, do you want to write the brief? Or would you rather let the machine write it for you and then you review it and edit it and make sure it works? Right? I mean, right now, what we're looking at with these large...
Let's say AI can write that brief, so I don't need you.
I wouldn't work for that person anyways.
It cannot do that now. It has to have some sort of human intervention.
I mean, it's a good point, and a lot of people are afraid of that, right? But what these models can do is they can take a lot of that rote and tedious work,
Right.
and they can automate that for you so that you now have the mental capacity and time to focus on something more meaningful. And so if you're in the advertising space, did you love writing ad copy? No. But now you can tap into a tool that does it for you, and you can focus on optimizing and targeting and different audience sets. So there's lots of ways that you can utilize it to free up space for you to do something more meaningful.
At this point, it's a supplement and not a takeover, right? It's a support structure to help be better, but not necessarily. It can't be used on its own. Like he was saying, it can produce book reports, but it will just make up the authors. It will just make up the books in whole, right? So it's not valid as a tool to completely take over any human jobs at this moment.
All
Do
right.
we have time for one more?
I think we have time for one more. We have 2 minutes.
Okay.
Let's go to the gentleman in the back.
My question is, are there any models out there that can reverse engineer, tell you that this output that you're looking at was generated by an AI model?
So the question was, are there any models out there that can reverse engineer and tell you this was generated by an AI tool? Okay.
Yeah. Off the top of my head, I don't know of any, but I could build you one. Looking at the images on this previous slide, there's a lot that if we created a data set of human-generated and machine-generated images and we labeled them as such, then we're building a classification model. And so as it looks at these images, it's going to pick up on things like poorly defined faces, and it will find there will be features that are extracted from these images. So you could build it. I don't know how reliable it would be, but
Well, and it's always an arms race, right? When you come out with a tool, it's even. I was trying to think of the video one. Oh, deepfakes, right? So deepfakes have been happening, and then now there's a tool that can say, okay, this is a deepfake, but then they've trained the deepfake to learn what the system was trying to, right? Like how it figured out that it was a deep fake. And then there's always going to be an arms race of sorts for that, right?
fair.
And so it'll kind of depend on the moment of time that you're looking at. Like, can it detect this? I mean, right now, yes, it probably can detect it. There's tools out there, I'm sure, that can, but it's going to get better. And then the tools that will detect it will get better, and then it'll get better, right? And it's just kind of an ongoing thing.
All right.
I think we're about out of time.
Okay. Thank you so much. We have a booth.
Thank you.
Come chat with us.